Question number 5, the Hon David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, the question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he stand by his statement that, quote, "We made it clear right through with the banks that with taxpayers supporting them and their depositors and their overseas borrowing, we expect them to give borrowers a fair go"?
The Hon Bill English.
Yes.
The Hon David Cunliffe.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker. Why then did his government block its own MP's proposal for a Finance and Expenditure Committee inquiry into pass-through of OCR cuts to short-term interest rates, having simultaneously criticised the major banks for failing to pass through cuts and appealing to the Reserve Bank to take action?
The Hon Bill English.
Mr Speaker, our top priority is that banks keep lending, because when banks stop lending, people lose jobs. With respect to the relationship of the short-term cash rate and the overnight cash rate, as we have said many times, customers of banks have the opportunity to choose lower rates than the floating rate, being the fixed 6-month and 1-year mortgage rates. And when customers make that choice, I might say it'll have a much bigger effect on the banks than a meeting of opposition members in a phone box with all their supporters.
Aaron Gilmore.
To the Minister. Has he seen any reports about competitive pricing within the banking sector?
The Hon Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, I have. Here is one, quote, "To reduce the cost of mortgages to homeowners on a permanent basis, the government has to deal with the high over-expenditure and level of borrowing of government." The second one says, quote, "To reduce interest rates, it is necessary to tackle the causes rather than simply to try by regulation to disguise the symptoms." Both of those statements were made by Phil Goff.
The Hon David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker.
The Hon David Cunliffe. Order.
To the Minister of Finance, can he confirm whether he has received any correspondence or indications from New Zealand's major banks that they are reluctant to continue current levels of lending if an inquiry into interest rate pass-through should proceed? And if not, why does he not now support an open, transparent, cross-party parliamentary inquiry that will allow New Zealanders the opportunity to voice their concerns and get the facts on the table?
The Hon Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no, I have received no such correspondence, and it's a bit rich. It's a bit rich getting lectured about interest rates by a government who presided over record interest rates in New Zealand at a time when bank margins, the member should listen to this. Under Labor, bank margins reached record levels, and they are currently 30% lower than they were when that man was a minister.
The Hon David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, can the Minister tell the House why the Prime Minister has now asked the Reserve Bank to come up with suggestions for his government? And is it a case that after a few months in office he's already run out of ideas, when just a couple of weeks ago he was telling the Reserve Bank it was all their responsibility to fix the mess?
The Hon Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, most of the things that can be known about banks passing on interest rate cuts is already known, because the Reserve Bank did a very thorough and insightful report into the gap between the floating rate and the overnight cash rate. The next question is what can be done about it, and the Prime Minister has quite reasonably asked the Reserve Bank for suggestions about what can be done about a well-known set of information.